This is Revival X with John Burton.
This is John Burton with Revival X. How's it going, everybody? Want to talk to you today about church. Everybody's done with church. I'm done. I'm just so done with church. I'm done. And people are frustrated and they're talking about the way that it needs to change and things that they don't like, and other people are focusing on this. Well, here's the big idea. Most of the time when people say I'm done with church, they're done for the wrong reasons, and they don't understand, they don't get it, they don't understand the shift, the reformation that's coming to the church. I wanted to spend some time today talking about the challenges of this new model, the new wineskin of church that absolutely is coming, and it has to come to this nation, to the planet, if we're going to see a legit move of God happen on a city level. Now, I need to define revival a little bit. Revival is simply biblical normalcy. It's a biblically normal life. Beyond that, it's a biblically normal life in a region, on a city level. So when there's a move of God in a church, and those are great, I love it. I love that. I want to see more of that. It's very rare. It's very, very uncommon. But when we see a move of God in a local church, that is great. And it can absolutely be the spirit of revival. It can be the spark. It can be the flame. It can be, of course, the Holy Spirit moving in a remarkable way. But we can't define it as revival until it overtakes the city, until it overtakes the region, until there's great impact in the region. Doesn't mean everybody gets saved. It doesn't necessarily mean that all the bars close down and all of that. The jails are emptied, and doesn't necessarily mean that. But it does mean there's dramatic impact on a regional level, and the water level of the activity of the Holy Spirit is rising. It's increasing in a measurable, dramatic way. So that's what we're going after. We're going after revival in a city. It saddens me, sometimes it angers me, that there are so few pastors and church leaders out there who even understand that, or who are not threatened by that, or who don't care about that, the idea that we need to go after revival on a city level. And it's not really about the local church much at all. It's not much about just our nice little happy gatherings where we're trying to fill the seats, trying to do our own thing. It's really not mostly about that. I've heard pastors say, well, my assignment is just my local gathering. It's really not what's going on in the city. Well, you are wrong if you're saying that. Couldn't be more wrong. And it's not really about your local gathering. Does that mean you don't pay attention to the local gathering? Of course, it doesn't mean that at all. There should be a spirit of excellence and passion, and there should be strategy and all of that regarding those who are directly under your care. You're giving leadership there. You're casting vision. However, it must never, ever be unto the local church. We always must be apostolically minded. And I understand there's difference between pastoral giftings and offices and apostle, prophet, all that. Of course I get that. But at the end of the day, we can't, as a pastor, for example, you can't just say, well, wait a minute, I'm a pastor, so I'm just supposed to focus on my own thing. I've heard that a lot. I'm just supposed to do my own thing. That's my assignment. My assignment's not the city. My assignment is not collaborating with other leaders and running toward an outpouring at a regional level. That's just not my calling. I'm supposed to just gather together and focus on the few that I have in front of me, whatever that number is, and that's my focus. Well, no, that's just simply wrong. Focus on those people, but what are you discipling them unto? What are you training them to do? What is the equipping all about? Is it just for them to live a nice little happy life and have a good solid family and all that? Well, having a good solid family is good. Hey, even a nice little happy life, maybe there's some benefit to that. I don't know. But come on, let's get real. The big picture is the focus. Is we need to train people to to annihilate the kingdom of darkness, to advance in a city, and that's got to be the goal. It should be common for people under our care to leave our churches sometimes, or and to move out to other cities or other regions or other places or other assignments. Or even more common is to connect with other churches and other ministries in the region, and giving some focus there, because why? They've got the bigger picture. It's not just about getting trained and discipled to stay within, your own four walls and to kind of repeat that. And it's just that's not the call. Well, so here's the question. What are some of the roadblocks or the struggles or the issues when it comes to city church and the outpouring? As leaders in a city, what are some of the challenges? And there's a whole bunch. So again, the idea here is that we are equipping people and we're casting vision to see impact come to a region. That's every pastor's call. That's every leader's call. And so what are some of the challenges? For example, I've got a list here. I might turn this into an actual sermon at some point and unpack it, but this is just spitballing. This is my list. But let's just fly through some of these. These are barriers or issues or problems to citywide revival. Number one, immaturity. And oh my goodness, churches can just absolutely get derailed and slowed by those who are not only immature. There's a lot of immature people out there, but those who refuse to grow out of their immaturity. They refuse to grow. They refuse to apply wisdom. They refuse to grow. Come on. And immaturity is everywhere. Next, there's a lot of these. I'm going to fly. Zeal without wisdom. There's people out there, a young person is all excited about, revival in the city. And they think it's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, legit, they do. There are people out there, this time next month or this time next year, this entire city is going to be transformed by the power of God. And that's great zeal. But what's the plan of action there, buddy? What are you doing in order to see that happen? Is it just some quote unquote faith statement where you're like, I'm believing in faith? Well, that's great. Faith without works is dead. And what's the big picture? Sometimes God will initiate a plan that's 20 years long, right? It's not going to happen for 20 years. You got to use wisdom. Okay. Next, disillusionment. Those people that are impatient and they don't want to wait. And they don't want to wait for the next big bang. They don't want to wait for the next miracle and the outpouring, the revival, the supernatural, the growth. They don't want to wait. They get frustrated. Maybe they endure for a year or 2 years and then they're done and they're just disillusioned. Where is God? Where is the outpouring? Where is well, come on. You've got to give yourself to it. You've got to lock in for 20 years. One of the most important prophetic words I've ever received in my life was somebody, hey, they had no idea who I was. They didn't even know I was in ministry. They didn't know I was a visionary. They said, if you contend and it takes 20 years for it to come, will you still contend? And it was the most important prophetic word I've ever received in my life. Okay, next, a lack of a remnant. There doesn't need to be a big group, but there needs to be the correct group. At Revival X, we are just praying in the 100, and that's not even an actual number. That's just the prophets hiding in the caves. That's a type of an individual. We're calling them out. So we know at Revival X that everybody that's supposed to be running with us locally is not with us yet. We know everybody in the region isn't not here yet. We know some people are even they don't even live in Branson yet, and God's going to move them to Branson. But we need the remnant. We need the remnant. At Revival X, we're not trying to grow big, but if we get a group of 60, 70, I'm talking about just locked in, mature, hungry, prophetic, apostolic, intercessors, these types of people, we're going to be in a good place. So we need the remnant. Every church does. Next, a lack of focus. Our squirrel. Every time something happens, is your attention diverted, or are you locked in and focused? Do you get frustrated when all sorts of different things are left undone, and we're not paying attention to this, or we're not paying attention to that, and there's no program for this, and there's no program for that, and you don't have the locked in, focus that's necessary, where we're not doing all these things, but we are definitely needing to focus on this one thing, and we need to focus on this one thing maybe for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or do we lose focus? We need to have focus. How about differing agendas? Differing agendas. You might be somebody that, like, wait a minute, yeah, I want revival. That's what drew me to the church. That's what drew me to the ministry. But I got all these other things going on in my life, and my own vision, my own passion, and I've got this agenda, and I want to focus, or this theology maybe. It's like I want this, this theological perspective. And, well, that might not be the perspective, theologically speaking, of that church or the focus of ministry. And so are you bringing a different agenda in? If that's the case, don't do that. You got to leave that on the shelf. Let God handle that, and just run in step with the vision of the house. The pressure to be an old model church. There's a lot of people say, I'm done with church. But then when you start, when the church starts, quote unquote, neglecting all the stuff that an old church would focus on, it's like, you're not focusing on these things. Well, that's the old church. We're not doing that, remember? So that's a barrier to revival. How about just good old-fashioned warfare? A lot of people aren't wired for that. They're not trained in that. They don't understand how the enemy works. So warfare, I'm going to speed up here. Lack of strategic planning. No planning, right? Lack of prayer, of course. That's a huge one. That's a mega one. There needs to be constant, fiery, strategic prayer. Religious resistance. You got to know in a city when you are advancing like this that most of the resistance will be coming through other leaders, certain ones, other pastors. It'll happen, and so there'll be religious resistance. Incorrect strategies. For example, some people think that we just need to have pastor meetings. It's like we need to, have these relationships. Well, relationships are good, but somebody asked me a long time ago and said, "Hey, John, do you think that really a key to revival in a city, and seeing churches really collaborate is just having monthly pastor meetings?" I'm like, "Oh no, heck no," and I can't stand those when it's just like surface level, just pastor meetings. But how about where we're praying and contending and doing those types of things as leaders? Yeah, that's different. So incorrect strategies. We need to make sure we have the right strategies. Wrong expectations. What are you expecting? What are you really expecting? Don't go service to service and judge what's going on based on and God was doing incredible things and revivals here. No. Don't do it based on, just the service, or based on kind of what's going on, in the moment. What about having no vision among the team? Everybody has to carry the vision of the house. It's huge. Cares of life, man, that'll derail it. Lack of passion. Lack of rank and order. There is hierarchy that we need to understand, and appropriate, healthy, biblical submission to authority, and just for the sake of getting the job done. Gossip, stepping out of position. Letting your emotions get in the best of you. Getting derailed. Instead of staying in position. Focusing on self or individuals versus the region. It's this whole idea of, God's calling us now to mostly minister to Him versus minister to people. And that's hard for a lot of people to grasp. That's a big part of the shift that's coming to the church. Looking for personal satisfaction rather than carrying our cross. People with low self-esteem, they've got this Gideon thing on them that I'm the least and the weakest, and God's called us to great things. Personal vision stronger than the corporate vision. Someone comes in, they've got a big vision, but they're not locking in with the corporate vision that can threaten it as well if not handled well. Sin, of course, apathy, not burning hot, lukewarm, being lukewarm, not burning on fire for Jesus. A focus on church growth. We got to eliminate that. It's not about church growth. It's about revival. Focusing on the lost versus the remnant. We've got to have revival in the church first, and then the harvest will come in. Lack of personal revelation and, being dependent on conferences. And, I personally don't attend a lot of conferences. I'm not looking for the latest and greatest. I do it on purpose because I don't want to be susceptible to just buying into the latest word and the latest prophecy. And I want to hear God myself. And so I will glean when God calls me to glean, and to see if I'm on the right track, and to see how confirming it is. Of course, God will use other leaders and other messages and things like that, and he does that all the time. But we've got to be careful, because there's a ton of people who are just they're too dependent on the conferences and the other leaders and prophetic words and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, just stop it. Take a year and eliminate most of that stuff, and just get with the Lord yourself and get your own message, right? Get your own vision, right? And so this is some. Again, this was just a fast one. Some issues regarding seeing revival come to the city. And there's more. There's other things. There's other issues. There's other barriers. There's other roadblocks. We've got to be aware of all this, so we are a little smarter than the enemy, or a lot smarter than the enemy, as wisdom of God just overtakes us, and we can push back. We can use wisdom. We can be smart, and we can see revival come. But we've got to lock in for the long term, everybody. Tell me what you think. Listen to this again. Go through the bullet points. What do you think about all this? Barriers to revival in a city. Again, it's not really about the church. It's about the city. All right. Talk to you next time. Hey, subscribe. And I've been on vacation, so I started these podcasts back up, and then I took a long break, for the last few weeks. I've been on vacation. I'm sitting here in Williamsburg, West Virginia, waiting for Amy, and we're going to get some food. And so I thought I'd take some time and talk with you all here. But back home in Branson next week. Hopefully get a ton more podcasts out to you. But contact me. I'd love to hear from you. Go to revivalx.tv.
Thank you for listening to Revival X with John Burton. You can access media, read articles, and partner with the ministry at revivalx.tv. And share this podcast with those who are hungry for revival, reformation, and revolution.